Check YouTube.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second live annual Strip-Till conference. On behalf of Orthman, we would like to extend a very warm welcome to you all. We appreciate taking your time to your busy schedules and being with us today. Just before I start off, I just want to give a bit of an icebreaker. And, you know, most of us have traveled a lot through the world and you know, came back from the US one year, and you know, you get these guys that do shuttle services, came outside, and there was this lady that was standing outside, and she looked at me and she said, "Are you Brian?" I said, "Yes, of course." Came up and she said, "Sorry, the bus is still not here." She got on the phone. She's running up and down on the phone, obviously trying to get hold of the bus service, and came back. And when she got back to me, I pulled my phone out. I said, "Sorry, you're looking for signal." So yeah, I just thought I'd do a bit of an icebreaker out there. So yes, very warm welcome to you all. My name is Brian Nevo, the host and founder of this live Strip-Till conference. The next speaker that I have today, our Vice President, Sales and Marketing for Orthman Manufacturing. Been with Orthman for about 8 years, who studied agricultural business at the University of Nebraska. He's about to just share a bit of an overview of Orthman Manufacturing. I'm pleased to welcome you, our Vice President, Justin Trout.
Well, thanks, Brian, and good afternoon to all of our viewers. And congratulations, Brian, on another getting launched, another second annual virtual Strip-Till conference. We'd all like to be in person and standing in the field and shaking hands, but we wish everyone well as we work through the backside of the pandemic. As Brian said, I'm Justin Trout. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Orthman Manufacturing. And I too welcome you to the second annual Strip-Till Conference. We appreciate everyone taking the time this afternoon and other time slots throughout the week to continue to learn and further your knowledge on how Strip-Till can and will make a positive difference to how you farm, both economically as well as agronomically. Orthman Strip-Till system has been improving the way farmers till and fertilize for over 20 years and in over 20 countries worldwide, addressing the needs of today's row crop producer. The only way that we can bring you the best information is to provide you with unbiased and accurate information. That's what we're doing today. To do this, Orthman has established 10 different research sites throughout the world, working with other industry input manufacturers such as fertilizer and fertilizer delivery systems, seed companies, industry soil scientists, universities, and other dealer organizations, developing a system approach to maximizing the best in performance and efficiencies for your entire input strategy. It takes all of these input manufacturers to work with the Strip-Till system to get the most value when you go to the field. This week, you'll hear from not only our agronomic and field team members, but you're going to hear from industry partners from around the world. And most importantly, you're going to hear from producers sharing their Strip-Till experiences and improving their agronomics, improving yields, and most importantly, they're improving their bottom lines. And lastly, we want to make sure that we answer all of your questions today and throughout the week. So be sure to interact during the conference or email us at the contact information that I'm sure Brian will provide throughout the conference. We look forward to a great week. We look forward to a great Strip-Till planting season and seeing and reaping the rewards and understanding how your values have improved. Brian, thanks again, and I'll turn it back over to you to get the conference started.
Justin, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was our Vice President of Sales and Marketing from Orthman Manufacturing. And just to give it more details, you know, if you guys please do comment, like our page. We will be answering some questions through this live conference. The next speaker that I'll be sharing with you guys today has 32 years of experience as a soil scientist. And he's been a soil scientist with the USDA, then moved over to Orthman Manufacturing and has been with Orthman for about 10 years as a lead agronomist for Orthman Manufacturing. So I'd like to introduce you to Mike Peterson. You know, we'll be going through a lot of topics, soil health through this week. This is just the beginning. So please feel free to ask us some questions. And yes, I'd like to introduce you to Mike Peterson.
Thank you, Brian. Good afternoon, everybody over in the across the pond from the United States. Justin and I are both pleased to be able to be part of this because we feel as though sharing the information and the technology that we have with the Orthman Strip-Till strategies and technology, we can help growers save water, protect their soils from erosion, because both wind and water is always a big problem at certain times of the year, whether we're in South Africa or Botswana or Zimbabwe or Zambia, you know, any one of those places. Correct. Along with a little across the pond and the Indian Ocean over towards Australia. Those folks, they deal with erosion also. So what we're trying to do with the Strip-Till system, as Brian has talked to many of you recently and in the past, that we're promoting the idea of how we can better till the soil with one pass prior to planting, or some folks are even hooking the planter directly to the Strip-Till bar and using that to make a system that saves all the water that you can in the soil profile, keeps the soil from erosion, like I said, then also we're dealing with minimal impact to the soil so that we're not detracting away from the soil health. And as everybody has probably read, heard, talked about, had conversations, get those into place for where the roots are really going to do well. Brian, are you going to be able to talk around a little bit around the tool today, or
Yeah,
are you going to let that go?
Yeah, we can definitely do that, Mike. You know, actually, excellent message that you just brought there, Mike. I actually brought a row unit in the studio, so you know, we can definitely walk around the row unit and talk about the row unit. You know, so you know, guys, please feel free to comment some comments here. You know, please like our page, share our page. This is a really good learning curve for everyone. You know, like one topic we brought up now last week or a couple of weeks ago, you know, Orthman is the only tillage company that does precision or trials in field. So please feel free to comment some comments. You know, we're here to work with you guys and give you guys advice where we can. So yes, please feel free to send some comments in. I think, you know, Mike, great topic. I'm going to walk around the machine, or the row unit, sorry, the one trip a row unit. And Button, Mike, if there's something that you want me to stop and you want to discuss about something, then, you know, please feel free to talk about it. And, you know, so pretty much what I have behind you is one of our top leading row units, tillage, precision tillage row units worldwide. It's not only in the US or South Africa. This is a worldwide product. So pretty much what we concentrate on is three topics: ideal seed bed preparation, precision nutrient placement, and optimal root zone conditioning. So this is all this one machine can do, and that's the focus that we try to do every day. You know, what nice is about it, we have our wraparound parallel linkage with the downforce springs, with our depth band coulter, with a cutting coulter in front. So that's pretty much there to cut the residue, clean out if there's going to be any hairpins around the shank. So that's pretty much what happens with the depth band coulter. We then get a adjustable row cleaner, which can move up and down depending on how much residue you have in your fields. That all depends. You know, there's some guys, you know, I've been to some guys that have really no material, and they put the row cleaner down and run the row cleaner in the field. And you know, I tell them, you know, lift it up. If you don't need it down, lift it up. Keep it up. You know, when you get to different fields with heavy residue, then we can move that down. We then follow behind that, which is we call a tail section. The tail section has a couple of options where we, have a dry fertilizer shank, a liquid shank, or we can use gas. That all depends on how the shank looks. You can adjust. So let's say, for instance, you can work at a certain depth with the shank, but you want to place that fertilizer at, let's say, 200 or 150 or 160 millimeters deep, but the shank must be down at 200. You can adjust those fertilizer tubes to that certain depth. Now, all of that runs on the tail section. When I say tail section, this is this part here coming out the back, which is also, has the option of our wavy coulters. Wavy coulters, very important, plays a very important role to the whole strip-till. There's a lot of guys that copy a strip-till machine, but I think that is one of the best design that Orthman's actually ever made is the wavy coulters. Mike, you can come in about that wavy coulters. Justin, that is the important thing on this row unit is, we, if I'm correctly speaking, we talk about as a lift and pinch, correct?
Yes. The wavy coulters are designed at a dimension that where the center of that hub is from the front of the point of how the soil is flowing through and how we're opening up the soil, that it pinches and closes the soil that is mixed with those wavy coulters. That is a 9-wave coulter, and therefore we can close what is created by the point, but also homogenize or make the soil be a fairly uniform size in that way, in that zone. So now when we go to plant, it's planting in a fairly firm seed bed, but also so that it can get a good roots system started. And then behind that, as you're going to be able to hopefully show, is our packer wheel that we'd be able to pack down and level out that particular berm that we create.
Correct. Yes. No. So the packer wheel, the basket that we say here in South Africa is, this back section where the basket is. Now, like Mike says, we do have different options. A berm basket. This is a 14-inch wide basket. Then we have a normal 8-inch wide basket. So there is different option baskets with the downforce pressure spring that pulls it down to give it that better that better seed bed. The second, or just before, there's a couple of things we can talk about it, and a lot of customers and growers ask me is, can we get it now without auto resets? So this is an auto reset that we have on here. We can get that without an auto reset, and we can put a brake bolt, which is, it all depends on what the customer wants to do. At the end of the day, we talk about value. We want to talk about a value of a product. Now, everyone says, what is it going to cost me? Well, sir, at the end of the day, the value of this product is we want to bring down what cost can we save you? Where can we help you efficiently on your farming practices? So that's the focus that we're trying to do this whole week. We have a huge lineup of interesting questions, visitors that's going to guest that will be joining us on stage. So yes, it's all about value, and I'm sure Justin and Mike can vouch me on that. Is we hear about a value of a product.
Yeah, Brian. One of the things it's interesting is we go around the world and work with different producers. The farming practices have a bit of a difference to them, but the desired end result is always the same. And you're having to deal with some of the same issues, if you may, whether you're having to manage high fuel prices, lack of water, whether that's rainfall or that's irrigation, labor, all those things contribute to the success or not the success or the lack of success in your tillage practice. And what's great about the strip-till system is you're cutting out a number of passes, which affects your fuel consumption.
Correct.
It provides probably one of the best tillage practices out there today from a standpoint I've always said there's nothing wrong with a conventional tillage pass where you've gone out there and you've tilled 3 or 4 times. You've got a great seed bed. That's the most value you get out of that is a seed bed. And the unfortunate thing is it's not very deep.
Correct.
You've created a compaction layer there. So this you're getting the best out of a conventional tillage pass in that strip, but in between the strips you have a no-till environment. There's great economic as well as agronomic value to no-till. However, it's a very inconsistent seed bed. You have very cold soils that you're planting your seed into, but you're getting the best out of all those different tillage practices and getting it all in one shot. So, and again, we see that all around the world. We see it in South Africa. We see it here in the United States. So with us being able to do a lot of different research in a lot of different areas of the world and combining this information, we can back our product with a lot of agronomic information.
Yeah, no, that's exactly the precise information. Thanks, Justin. I think that some of the growers will appreciate that information, and and I've seen it myself. This year we took on a challenge, and we'll share that with you guys on Wednesday. We're not going to go into depth with it right now. Is we took the challenge this year and did our own trials here in South Africa. We do have a trial farm. We are doing some trials. My focus going forward is to have at least 2 or 3 trials in the different parts of South Africa. So it's just not only in one area. It's always good to have some good information, to have that feedback, to share it with you guys. And that's exactly what customers and growers are looking for. So yeah, Mike, maybe while we're talking about that strip-till procedure, about that, there's that we call it a U shape that we make. Am I correct?
Yes. Yes. What Brian is bringing up, with our tool, the way the shank and the point has been developed, we open up the soil profile so it is shaped something like a modified U. It has a point on the bottom, but it's not totally a V, just like that. We're wanting to make sure that as the roots grow out from, for instance, a maize plant, that it has the potential to expand on its shoulders, that's up towards the surface of the soil, but then also down into the soil profile, hopefully 1 to 1.5, maybe 2 meters deep. As we do that, we can be able to access more nutrients, more water, and also a temperature regime that modifies the entire plant. So when you're reaching 35 degrees Celsius as an air temperature, and the soil temperature, if it was bare, would be reaching it'd be reaching about 50 degrees Celsius. That's awful hot. And our process is, we know that when we're down in the soil profile at 45 to 80 centimeters, we have the opportunity to be into cool soils where the roots will flourish and also gain as much water and nutrient as they can, because we've studied here in the United States and across the globe where plants do their dominant uptake of nutrients and water and what it is by soil temperature. We know that the soil temperature, when it's reaching 35 degrees Celsius, it's not very efficient. The plant is not, and it suffers. It's actually going into stress. We'd rather that didn't happen. So if you've got soils that are down around 15 degrees Celsius, down at a meter, 1.5 meters, and the surface is 28, 30 degrees Celsius up at the surface, we can modulate the entire plant to be cooler Therefore, it can continue to function and won't go under stress. And strip till helps allow that because we get roots to go deeper. In conventional tillage, more often than not, the roots won't go much more than a meter deep, and therefore we don't have the capacity to get the water and the nutrients. So it's very important that we have studied over the years. Even when I was working for USDA, we were finding that we wanted to make sure we got plants down around 2 meters deep so that we had as much water as possible. And what we haven't talked about very much yet, Brian, and I'm pretty sure that you and I can have this interaction along with Justin, is the ideal thing about soil compaction. Our tool helps alleviate soil compaction because we can go almost 300 millimeters deep with the bottom of the shank. And most compaction that we know from today's tractors and grain carts and trucks and harvesting equipment doesn't drive compaction much deeper than about 250 to 280 millimeters deep. And we can get to it, and we can put the shank underneath it, lift it, rupture it, and shatter it within a zone, like I said, in that modified U, so that we can help those roots to get through it. It's important that folks know that plants have a certain amount of turgid pressure, that's pressure within the root tip, that can force it through the soil profile. And we've studied that also to get a better idea of how much power does a plant that's 10 centimeters tall versus a plant that is 2.5, almost 3 meters tall. There's quite a difference in there. That little plant can maybe exert, as I'll put it in pounds per square inch, about 40 pounds per square inch at its root tip. But when it's mature, it can exert 400 pounds per square inch. But if you get into some compacted soils, they may be compacted tight enough that they have a resistance, a force that will not allow roots to push through it, of 2,000 pounds per square inch. I think it's pretty obvious that we want to make sure that we don't have to deal with that so that that plant can grow and extend its root system. So those are important items that tool that's on Brian's right has the potential to take care of what we're after. Brian, you might want to be able to explain what it is in kilowatts of power that it takes to pull that tool, and if folks have the machinery to do it with.
Correct. No, Mike. Yeah, so it all depends on what sizes. We can, we're talking about the sizes of machines. We can go from 4 to 16 row pull type on a 3-point mounted with dry fertilizer, 6-ton dry fertilizer, 8-ton dry fertilizer tank on the back. We can go to liquid with liquid fertilizer system on it. But just coming back to what Mike's point is what is the kilowatt that you need on this machine? Now, it all depends on soil types, all depends on depth, on what depth you're working at. I prefer to work at an average of a maximum kilowatt, and we work at about 20 kilowatts here in South Africa. That's at the maximum depth of the 300 with fertilizer on it. Now, it all depends on what sizes you're talking about. If we're going up to a 16-row or a 4-row machine, it is available. We can do it. That's the nice thing about Orthman. There's some guys that we have done now this past couple of days or years with XD machines. XD is obviously a pull type with large wheels on the back where we can carry at least a 6-ton or 8-ton dry fertilizer system on the back. Now, with that, some of those guys have done custom. Now, when I'm talking about custom, that is different row spacing. I wouldn't say we've done it in a different type of row spacing where it, changing the toolbar. It's standard 16 row 76, where we've taken out some row units, let's say, for instance, a 16 row, but we've made it into a 12 row. So we are capable to do that. We can remove row units and add it into a 12 row if it needs to be done. But when it comes to those type of requests on, different row spacings. Those requests, we can get it. For myself, I am actually a regional sales manager. I will receive that information and send it through to our engineering team. Our engineering team will obviously come back to us and let us know, right, we can do it or we cannot do it. So there are a couple of things that we can, we look into, we can do. So that's a big portfolio of us. We look at it in a big scale and where we can help the growers out. So, Mike, before I go somewhere, I just want to touch on a topic here quickly, and before it comes out of my mind is, these couple of days. Last week I was actually at a farmer's day, and there was a grower that turned around and said to me, a couple of years ago he had an Orthman Strip-Till 8-row machine. But he had a problem with the shank. But we have an attachment which is called a shin cap. Now, that shin cap is there to help with those ears. From those ears, what I mean by ears is, let me see if I can get the camera to come and show me here quick. Now, the ear that I'm talking about is here on your shank. So we call this an ear. This part here. So we have a shin cap that goes over this and protects that ear. Now, that is maybe something people, oh, sorry guys. That is something, which a lot of guys don't know about, and, we can, if there's some questions, we can help them out sorting that out. There's a couple of things, and that's also one reason why shanks bend. The ear breaks off, it pulls to the side, and then bends the shank. So, there's a couple of things. So, Mike, Justin, I don't know if you guys have experienced this in the US as well.
Yes, we have. We get into soils that have a lot of rock or cobble, which is a certain size of stone, but we have bent shanks. We've twisted them. We've made them look like pretzels. Unfortunately, and we busted and sheared off the actual point, but that shin cap does help, especially if we catch it with a glancing blow, and it keeps the shank from breaking approximately 15 centimeters up from the bottom and just shears it right off in the middle. That's what that shin cap is very helpful to accommodate for us. One of the things that Brian, I think we want to address is throughout the rest of the conference, and our guest speakers and our growers that are going to talk about it, they're going to talk a little bit about how they place their nutrients. Nutrient placement today, especially in systems that require a lot of fertilizer, is incredibly important because we become more efficient. And as we become more efficient, we can use less. And with that tool that is right to the right of Brian, we're able to decrease phosphorus and potassium amounts that we have to put in the ground anywhere from 25 to 40%. And when you think about your nutrient bill that you're having to pay every year, whether or not you're paying some of it forward or not, growers have the chance now to consider how we can reduce both their P and K requirements, but also their nitrogen requirement. This year, here in the United States, we watched fertilizer rise in about a month period, 35 and 40% of what it had been the year prior. So even though we know that corn prices have gotten better, boy, I tell you, putting down nutrients when the price goes up that high makes a lot of farmers shiver and shake that what they're dealing with. So, Brian, we're making sure that where the outlet is, or the dry tube on the back of the shank, and also for the liquid tubes, are being placed so that we can accommodate the plant's growth potentials and accommodate where the root systems grow. Justin, I'm trying to remember, when we have a dry tube and a liquid tube, do we place the liquid above or below the dry outlet? I'm just asking.
Yeah, today it's set up that you can't put the dry down deep. But we're getting that in combination with dry and liquid. You can't get those set so you can put the dry deep. Now we're working on that, Shank, and we'll get that taken care of. So you can apply your dry fertilizer at the bottom depth, and then you can set your liquid or your top band of fertilization then above that. So today it's kind of flip-flop, but because we understand the importance of deep placement in some of those dry mixed fertilizer formulas, we want to make sure we get down there deep. So, but yeah, we'll get that. We're working on that to get that changed around. I had a question for you, Mike. I get asked this question all the time: is when's the best time to strip till? Should I do it in the fall if I've got time? Or should I wait and do it pre-plant in the spring, right in front of the planter? Should I combo the two together? I'm sure that's all based off of soil types, soil conditions, where you live. If you're in North Dakota versus the southern part of the Corn Belt. But when is the best time?
I'm with you. That's a question that is heard around the world. Now, a lot of that is dependent upon your post-harvest moisture. Are you going to get a lot of moisture in the fall of the year, whether you're in the southern hemisphere or the northern hemisphere? Then also, what's the soil textures that you deal with? You're working with soils that have clay percentages higher than 35% of the sand, silt, and clay mixture. Definitely, you want to give some of your fields, get them done in post-harvest. And by that, Justin, we recommend, and I know you and I have both been standing there and talking to growers about this, get in the field right as the combine is finishing up. Don't hesitate. Even if you have to hopefully hire a guy to be able to run the trucks and you're the normal one, or here in the States, a lot of farmers' wives drive the trucks. But get on that strip-till rig, put fertilizer if you can, and get it done in the fall. Now, as we come into the more arid areas of both the United States and South Africa, Australia, over in South America that are a little bit drier, we definitely can assume that people can do it prior to planting because the winters weren't that wet, and we have a chance to get in there anywhere from a month to a week ahead of when you're going to plant and use the strip-till rig then. So getting it done, as I said, looks at whether or not you've got soil textures that are heavy, greater than 35% clay. If you have a lot of winter moisture and you're going to go into the spring wet, and that could be an issue, so you would want to probably do fall tillage. For those that are more dry and they're not really heavy soil, so that means with a lot of clay, then do it in the spring and get it done. And we got over here in the United States, Brian, we've got folks that are chasing the cows out of the fields that they've had in corn and strip tilling right behind them. So it's all a process of whether or not it meets your soil conditions and what else you have there on your farm.
Yeah, no, Mike, and just to come on that, and we've seen it, yeah, exactly the same. Obviously, with our weather conditions, play a huge role. Obviously, compared to where the US is and Australia. There are some customers to the east. They will do it. It all depends on are they putting their cattle on the field? Are they not putting their cattle on the field? It all depends on what they're doing and how they want to do their farming practices. Now, yes, we see some guys and some of the growers that will be joining us. There's some great information that they have as well, and there's some growers that go straight after harvest and they'll go and strip till. Mike, we covered this topic last year, and I think maybe you can just touch on this. Is it all depends on the moisture that you have during the winter season, or it depends on how much rain you get through the year. Let's say, for instance, if you got to correct me here, Mike, is if you have a higher rainfall, you can strip till right before or right after harvesting time. If you have a lower rainfall season, it's about 30, if I'm correctly speaking, about 30 to 35 days, 40 days before planting season to get in with a strip till. Correct, Mike?
Yes.
And that is something that we've seen here. There's some guys that do more than one crop a year. If we're talking about up west, I'm talking about here in South Africa, Northern Cape, Douglas, Prieska, Hopetown. Those guys, it all comes down to time, and time is a virtue. Here's a machine to help you with time. And there's guys that I had a chat with a couple of weeks back. They said to me they go and disc the fields and get the land prep. Or first, it's actually just to come back a bit is they actually were planting straight after wheat, and wheat has a lot of material, and we all know that. Now, some of the guys turned around and said, now they want to burn the field to get the material down. What is your feel about that, Mike? Is when they talk about burning the material on the field, that's not something really we want to look at doing, right?
Oh, Brian, I don't know whether or not anybody saw my face, but I winced. It's almost like if someone would take a knife and stab me in the belly button. Burning the field is not a good thing, especially environmentally. It's not good. If people would look at the amount of nutrients that are in after a good crop of wheat or maize, they're throwing a lot of money away, because in a 10-ton to the hectare yield of corn, if someone would not graze it but burn it off, they're losing all kinds of potassium. They're losing a lot of phosphorus. The nitrogen that all goes up in that smoke is lost, and it's lost forever.
Yep.
I know that I've worked with some boys in the Great Plains of Kansas, which is one of the states in the high plains of United States, and a fire got away from a train. Had a hot box. I think a lot of folks know what that means, but it was a grease burn, and it splattered and it took off, and it burned about 15 miles of country. And I'm pretty sure that we're getting close to time, but boy, they lost the equivalent of 75 pounds of nitrogen and 90 pounds of phosphorus, and it showed in the field the following year. So those are the kinds of things that don't burn, don't light a match.
Yeah.
No,
Correct.
that's just, it's horrid.
Yeah, no, definitely. And just to go back on that, there's now that grower said to me the other day is, it's December time, it's Christmas, everyone wants to be with their family. Now they've got to go and burn their fields, get the material down. The problem is exactly like we had this year, is we had a lot of moisture. Now the material did not want to burn, so they still had to go run through the field with a disc or something just to clean up that material to go and plant. And we had a long chat about it, and they've done a bit of research, and that's one thing. I want to encourage guys, please, please go and follow our precision tillage email website. Sorry, precision tillage website. There's a lot to learn on there. And it all comes down to exactly what these guys were talking about. Is they all push to time. They want to do the one pass. They still want to have the seed bed. Otherwise, if you don't have a proper seed bed, you're going to get late emergers. You're going to get non-emergers. So it all comes down to exactly how you guys want to prep your land, what type of planter you want to use on there. So I think, you know, that's the main focus, how we want to look at this year. Mike, and you know, just to come back to that rainfall is, you know, how much moisture do you save just by doing strip till? Yes, strip till, no till, you know, strip till is better, you're getting a seed bed. But is what I know, we're looking at what, between 30 to 40% moisture savings that you get between the rows, that you're not working the rows. Is it
Well,
more?
maybe even more.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the time is running out. I just got a couple of questions the guys have asked. Mike, I don't know if we want to ask, you know, if you have something for this, is how does the wavy coulters react in wet high clay soils? It all depends on how you adjust. You know, my opinion, it depends on how you adjust the wavy coulters. I know, for instance, if you are using a shank, you know, we do have an option for a wavy coulter. So, you know, the shank can come out and you put a shallow tillage coulter in for the wetter soils. Mike, Justin, you guys can climb in, and you guys in the US have a lot of wet, you know, after snow, you have a lot more wet soils to work through.
Yeah, I'll chime in. You know, when we introduced the shallow tillage attachments that you're referring to, which is a set of wavy coulters that are kind of offset and run very close to one another, that go in the same area, was to address the wetter conditions of the spring strip tiller. Sometimes, especially in the eastern side of the Corn Belt, where we could get a lot of early spring rains, those you know, those soil conditions would just not be conducive to running a shank and deep placing. So it was kind of a rescue for those guys to at least go out, maybe sprinkle some dry fertilizer into that strip, get it tilled in with those wavy coulters. So I think it is soil type. It is soil condition at that particular time that you want to or need to strip till. Some guys use that also as a refresher. If they're running their strip till machine in the fall, it sits all winter. Maybe they had a lot of wind, moved a lot of residue around, that type of thing. Maybe they got some crusting. Whatever the case may be, they may run up and down those strips with just those coulters on there. So it's been it's not ideal. It sure takes away from one of the three principles of our strip till system, but it does allow you to get in there and you know, create a strip, and it allows you to continue on with your strip till system.
Well, I'll chime in just real briefly. We know that when soils have a lot of clay, by that I mean they're up above 30% clay and rising, especially like we get into some of our what they call the black cotton soils of the southern part of the United States. They'll run 55% clay and more. The shallow tillage coulters that we've used wouldn't even probably penetrate, because those soils are so heavy and so dense that they can't get in there. But if they get wet, you're in deep trouble. They're really tough to use. But guys have found that the shallow coulters, they're approximately 12 to 13 centimeters apart. That means from hub to hub. And they do a good job down to about 5, maybe 6 centimeters deep. And they're used a lot for refreshing the soil bed after they fall tilled, so that they can get another shot of fertilizer on and get the job done so that it's ready to go. You said you had another question, Brian, before we sign off for the day.
Yeah. So just on that whole shallow tillage coulter, and I think you pretty much actually covered it there, Mike, is a lot of the guys use the shallow tillage coulter for freshening up the strips. So, the guys will run through with a shank. They'll, shatter the root zone, make the seed bed in your guys' fall, our winter, straight after harvest, and straight before planting season, they'll run it with a shallow tillage coulter just to freshen up that bed. So that's pretty much, the whole background on, the one trip a row unit, what it can do. So firstly, I would definitely like to say thank you to the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Orthman Manufacturing, and as well for our lead agronomist, Mike Peterson. And till next time, we'll see you guys tomorrow for some great information and guests that will be joining us online. So please feel free to like our page, share it, and before we go, I just want to say thank you to our sponsors, Pro Agri, and as well for Johnson's Workwear in Klerksdorp. So thank you very much, guys, and we will see you on the next one.
Thank you.